Hi, happy January. I'm Virginia Lindsay of Ginger Cake Patterns and Design, and today we're going to talk about the new year and new habits. I don't know about you guys, but I can't help it to get all pumped up after the holidays. You're thinking so much about everybody else, you're making for them, you're, I don't know, so busy. And then after, when January comes and things quiet down, you get to start thinking about yourself again. And I find that a really cleansing time. So today we're going to talk about sewing and kind of the big picture habits to form in sewing. I've been sewing for a business and for myself for about 10 or 12 years, and I've come up with I don't know, some advice, and I'm sure I know you guys have advice for me too, which is one of my favorite things about doing these videos. And also, I wanted to share with you the class I'm taking in Skillshare right now. My sponsor is Skillshare, which is an online platform. They have 25,000 classes from creatives. I'm taking a knitting class, so I'm really excited about that. I bought this fabric, this yarn, a long time ago. I went to this really cool yarn shop in this beautiful little town, and I spent like $50 on this yarn, and I'm finally gonna make something with it. So hopefully next time I'm gonna show you guys my progress. But here's a quick video of the Skillshare knitting. So Skillshare, their setup is to have, it's 8 or 9 short classes, and they always are centered around completing a project, which I really like. And in this knitting class, I'm going to complete sewing a scarf. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. So let's make 2020 the year where you explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity with Skillshare's online classes. And you can sign up today using my link down below and get 2 months free. And then it's just less than $10 a month after that, which I think is really affordable for how many wonderful classes you can take and how many new things you can explore using Skillshare. Okay, now on to our habits. I actually have 10 habits. The first one I wanted to mention to you is, it's called, I think of it as like inspiration comes from within, of course, like all artistic endeavors, but it's never going to come to you if you aren't sewing. So the first thing I would say was, make yourself a sewing time. And as you're sewing, things might not always turn out perfectly, but you're sewing, and if you're not doing it at all, then the good stuff is never going to happen. So sew regularly, and then you'll find yourself creating beautiful things that you're really proud of. So that's my number one. If you're not sewing, inspiration can't come if you're not even doing your craft. So go ahead and start sewing regularly to get things moving. Okay, the next thing is, and this is something this isn't in any particular order, but the next thing is, when you are sewing, make sure to stop and read the directions thoroughly, and then maybe begin your sewing. This is something I've been guilty of many times. And whenever I create a sewing pattern, I write in there at the very top, read through, and then go back and start the sewing project, because there are special things that you're not going to know. Even if you're a very experienced sewer, try to read through the pattern and get an idea of what you're getting into. Then go ahead and sew. And then read the directions, because I have made so many stupid mistakes by not reading the directions. And it's almost like a thing where you get overly confident and you think you know better than everybody else, but you have a lot to learn from other people and their directions, me included, of course. And so reading the directions will make you a better sewer, and it'll help you learn some new things too. Okay, the next thing is, when you make a mistake on those directions, be okay with your mistakes. Just get yourself in a mental place where mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes help you learn, like we know everybody's been talking about. I feel like I keep reading this thing, like, if you can't make mistakes, then you're never going to get better. And sewing is the same. Be prepared for those mistakes and get yourself in a mental spot where you can handle a mistake and handle having to seam rip a whole project or half a project or an hour's worth of work. It's happened to me. It's happened to everybody. Just calm down and maybe you need to walk away for a little bit, but come back, correct your mistake, be okay with it, and move on. Don't give up. You need to just be able to move on. And one of the great things about sewing is that unless you cut your fabric too small, most things can be repaired with some seam ripping and some ironing and some patience. Okay. Another thing is to be sociable with your sewing. One of the best things about learning to sew now is that sewing is all over the place on the internet. I mean, it's here on YouTube, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's on wherever you want to be. And be sure to comment when you like something. People are putting their stuff out there, and it's really important to let people know that you like them, that you are inspired by them, and then it helps them. It'll make you feel like they're putting all this work into things, and if you get out there, then they'll hear what you have to say too, and then that'll help you to be more sociable in return. If you start posting on a Facebook site, say you are just beginning quilting, then get yourself on Facebook and find a beginning quilting Facebook group. They're all over the place, and those are really supportive, really nice places. You can take a class and be in person. That's even better. But if you don't have that option, try to get on one of these little groups, post your things on Facebook and groups. Just try to be sociable. I know it's hard on some of us to take a picture and to be part of it, but it makes a huge difference in your sewing and what you're going to get out of it, to feel feedback from other people. And give feedback is really important too. Okay. Number 5, and I know I've given you guys whole videos about choosing fabric, but I also want to say that fabric choosing can really get in your way of making progress on a project. Some things you need to go with your gut, but you also need to work on your design and making good choices. But then you actually, you need to go ahead with your choices you made and not obsess. This is something that I do, and not everybody does this, I understand, but I get really bogged down sometimes in my fabric choices, and I will find myself spending a really long time trying to choose that perfect fabric, and then I won't even complete my project. So this little case, I just made this yesterday for my sale, and I went back and forth, and this turned out so pretty. It was my first choice, and then I went and chose this other fabric, and then I went and chose another fabric, and then I waffled, and then do I really want to waste this fabric on this little piece? Maybe I want to make a big thing of it. Well, use your fabric and trust your choices. This is your art. This is your craft. You need to go ahead and move forward with things in order to get stuff done. So use our basic principles we've been learning, like in this video, right? We talked about fabric choosing. I don't know which one it is. One of those spots is where I can pop up the video for you, but then go ahead and move forward and trust your instincts. Number 6 is to sew when you're at your best. Now, you probably know when you're at your most creative. And when I first started sewing, a lot of people that I was kind of connected to online and stuff, young moms, they all sewed late at night after their kids went to bed, and they were like, late night sewing. And so I kept trying to sew late at night, and I found that it was a horrible time for me. I would make mistakes. I would choose poor fabrics. I would just, it wasn't a good time for me. And I kept trying it because it seemed like it was when others could sew so well. But for me, I would prefer to wake up at 5 in the morning and sew than try to sew after 10 o'clock at night till 2 or something. I've done it, and it didn't turn out well at all for me. So kind of respecting your own best time. We all have our own kind of rhythms that when we're our best, and sewing at that best time is a great way to make sure that you get the most out of it. So figure out that time, and when you're available, whether it be on Saturday or whether it be at 4 o'clock a.m. on a Tuesday, or from 10 to 12 if you happen to have a Wednesday free or something. But find that best time and then know that that's when you're best at sewing, and give yourself that space. Okay, number 7 is pushing yourself to try new things. I think a lot of us figure out what we can sew and then we just stick in that little box and we don't try. Sewing is such a huge amount of things to make, from quilting to garments to bag sewing to, a variety of things. I'm most comfortable in sewing bags and little pillows, my little animal things I sew back here, my organizers. But when I want to push myself, I try to sew a quilt block, or I try to sew a garment. That's really pushing myself because I'm not very good at sewing clothes, even though I try it sometimes. So try to do that, push yourself to try new things, and that'll open up new doors to you and make your sewing even better. Okay, so you saw from that title that this one is about saying no to hemming pants. And it's really about saying no to doing all sorts of other people's clothes fixing. You can start a whole business if you want of alterations, and it might be a nice way to earn extra money. But if you're doing sewing like what most of us are doing sewing for, which is kind of for, enrichment and making kind of like satisfying a craving that you have of doing something with your hands and creating beautiful things, you don't want to get caught up in hemming other people's pants, because it's a waste of your valuable time. And what I do, because I've been asked many times to sew things for people, and for really good friends and family, I often do it to help them out. But what I usually do is I have an alteration person's number, and I give them to them. Someone who is like local and does a fine job, and it's not, outrageously expensive. I say, I don't do that, but here is someone who does. And then you give them that number, and they're usually happy. They don't really understand what goes into hemming pants or understand why you're interested in sewing. And so that's really the best way to handle that, because your sewing time is valuable and you should be doing things that you want to do with it, and not doing favors for other people who don't understand, what your sewing time is about. So make sure to stand up for yourself there and say no to hemming pants. Number 9 is valuing your sewing time. And since you're already saying no to hemming pants, make sure that you value that time that you've created in your life for sewing, or any craft, knitting, or any craft that you're doing. And make sure that those around you understand that this is your special time. I remember when I first started sewing, it was kind of like in corners and not really, kind of in between stuff. And then finally, when I spoke up to my family, my husband in particular, because my kids were little, and I said, you know what, this is really important to me. I want to make time for this. And he really stepped in and helped me out. He said, okay, and he would take the kids, or he would drive the kids to preschool when I wanted to blog and talk about sewing. And that was really awesome, because it made space in my life for this important thing, and it helped me get a lot better at sewing when I took it seriously, and so did the others in my life. And then also, one of the things that also helped take it seriously and make space was having a designated sewing spot. So, I have a whole room now, but I started out having just a little corner of my bedroom, and then it became a little desk and with a little shelf. And then it became, a corner of the guest room when I had a cutting area. So it got bigger and bigger as time went on. But it's important for you, if you're going to make space for sewing in your life and get better and take it seriously, to go ahead and have a designated spot for your sewing machine and your tools. And that'll help you to take it more seriously too. Number 10 is sew what you like and buy the rest. I have gotten caught up in this so many times, because once you learn how to sew pretty well, even just beginner, you realize how many things you can make yourself. And if you're sort of thrifty like I am, you decide that you would rather sew. You were like, oh, I can sew that. I'm not going to buy that gift, or I'm not going to get those little things for my kids. I can just sew them. Well, it turns out that I don't end up sewing them, and then it becomes a last minute mess up and all that stuff. So now I know that there are certain things that I love to sew, like bags, or for my little ones, I like to sew, I'd sew dresses for them. And I like to make little throw pillows, quilt tops and stuff, and then every once in a while I'll sew pajama bottoms, things like that. But I no longer will sew Halloween costumes. I know a lot of you love Halloween costumes, but I personally, I don't like to sew those. And I don't really sew other things, you know, that are kind of like stuff I'm not like t-shirts for the kids. There are some really cute t-shirt patterns out there. I've tried it. It's not my thing. So I don't sew those types of things, but I do know what I like to sew, and then I just go ahead and buy the other things. I can even buy them from other people who sew, but make sure that you also kind of, you know, respect that about yourself and get to know what you like and what you don't, because again, your sewing time is valuable and you want to make the things that you really like to make. So that is it. I watched this really great PBS Craft in America about quilting, and I'm going to put the link down below for you guys because I think you'll really like it. It was really cool, and a lot about how important sewing is to people who sew. I really like that. It kind of spoke to me because it does fulfill a certain special part in you to sew. But that's it for today, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to do another video in about 10 days or so for Skillshare and for me, of course. And that'll be a tutorial instead of these lists that I've been doing. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.